I mean, if the truth said it, it's got to be true, right? What did Paul Pierce have to say about Jaylen Brown being the number one option for your Boston Celtics this season? That's what we're going to discuss on this edition of Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Tyler Smith. And before we dive right into what Paul Pierce had to say, I want to make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. We cover your Celtics every single day here on YouTube. And my goal is to get to 54,000 subscribers by training camp here in about 2 weeks. It's a hefty goal, but if we get 460 diehard Celtics fans to hit that subscribe button, we could reach that in no time. All right, Paul Pierce had this to say about Jaylen Brown, and specifically this quote being a leader on the Celtics roster. He said, I've always looked at Jaylen as an important voice there, whether they're in practice, in the locker room. From what I'm seeing, Jaylen just personality-wise is more vocal person than Jayson. But you see it in guys' personalities, and naturally, Jaylen is a vocal dude in the media, on the court, so he's not looking at anything different as far as that. Look, if there's one thing I can kind of hang my hat on this season for the Celtics, whether it be Jaylen Brown or Peyton Pritchard kind of instilling this confidence in them, is I don't envision this Celtics team having no heart. I don't think they're going to be a squad that just sits down and lies down because Jayson Tatum's not playing this season. No, they're going to try to win as many games as possible. The front office is going to make their decisions as to whether or not to put them in a position to do that. But the players are going to care, and the players are going to give it their all every single night. Jaylen Brown is going to be at the helm of that. But on the basketball court, it does come down to skill level at the end of the day in this very talented NBA. And for the C's to succeed and be a good team in the Eastern Conference, a top-level team that has a chance to at least make a run, there are things that Jaylen Brown does have to do better as a basketball player. He's so good at, rising up and shooting over defenders in the mid-range, attacking the basket using his size. As far as it goes defensively, he's one of the best, if not the best, in the league at his position on the ball. He's super switchable 1 through 5, and he takes a lot of pride in that. But there are things that he needs to get better at because more responsibility is going on his plate this season. And Pierce, he had more to say about the situation with Brown kind of taking a bigger leadership role on the court. All feelings aside, we're talking about actual skill on the court here. He said for him, it's about what he can do better on the court. This is the thing. When you start getting more of the rope, you've got to be more responsible. So he's got to get more leeway. And not that he didn't have all the leeway, but now he's the main focus. So with that comes more responsibility. How do I get my teammates involved more? When I got to maybe change up my game a little bit. I think he's going to get an opportunity to show more of his versatility because, he handles the ball, but he doesn't get the same responsibility that Tatum gets. Tatum had the ball more for handling and making plays, and now that's on Jaylen. How much better can he be in a pick-and-roll situation making decisions? He didn't really have that responsibility as much as Jayson did. That's what I'm going to be looking at, how he's going to be responsible when he's shouldering the offensive load. Just naturally, this season, Jaylen Brown, ball handling volume is going to go up. Ball handling responsibility in general is going to go up. What does he do with the ball in his hands most of the time? It's typically isolation creation for himself. He's one of the best in the league at that. He's got a real crafty bag in the mid-range there and getting to the basket. But now it's going to be initiation things. It's going to be playmaking for teammates to try to get other guys the ball and move it around. So with that being said, with that being the case, he's going to need to have better security with the ball in his hands as well. What's been Jaylen Brown's crutch throughout his whole career? He turns the ball over and sometimes has a little bit too loose of a handle. That's just going to have to change at the end of the day. We're going to need to see the biggest ball handling leap of Jaylen Brown's career here as he's entering his age 28 season. So it's a tall task, but I believe in JB's ability to do it because he knows there's a challenge in front of him now. There's no doubt that Jaylen Brown is going to see more double teams in his career or this season than he has in his entire career to this point. Jayson Tatum was one of the most double teamed players in the NBA when he was healthy. Now Jaylen Brown's going to have that weight on his shoulders. So it's a lot of responsibility. Well, time will only tell if he's up to the task. I do think that Jaylen Brown is a good passer of the basketball. There are qualities of being a playmaker in this league, and just being a pure passer doesn't tell the whole story, but Jaylen Brown is a good passer of the basketball. He can get to the rim, use his size to either move a defender out of the way, draw a foul, or be able to kick it out to open shooters. That's been something that it was a huge step that he took over the past few seasons with more talent around him on the basketball court. Now there's a little bit less talent on the basketball court for JB this upcoming year, but I think he's going to use the skills that he's built over the last couple of seasons to help translate into him being a more responsible offensive player this upcoming year. And I think that there might be some untapped abilities to Jaylen Brown's playmaking game here. When Jayson Tatum wasn't on the court, he did kind of carry that mantle, and he did take up the responsibilities of being the playmaker for your C's. Without Jayson Tatum on the court in last season, Jaylen Brown averaged 9.6 assists per 100 possessions. That's ridiculous. And honestly, I had a projection out for Jaylen Brown to average around 4.5 assists. I think I got to bump those numbers up a little bit after I saw that stat. And without Jayson Tatum on the floor in other areas, like, we know what he can do. Tatum's one of the best rebounders on the Celtics team, if not the best, and one of the best at his position. Well, Brown bumps those rebounding numbers way up without Tatum on the basketball court. Without him, we've had a half-season sample size, and he stepped up to the plate in terms of scoring, being the number one option in that regard. Rebounding, probably being the number one rebounding ask on the roster this year. The assists, we'll see how that goes as the season progresses. But I think that's the number that's going to be way up out of these five you see on your screen, and that's what Jaylen Brown's stat line is going to look like for this upcoming season. With that being said, predict it for me down in the comments. 5.5 assists per game for Jaylen Brown in 25-26. O for over, U for under. Let me know what you guys think. Can Jaylen Brown take the big playmaking leap that this Celtics team needs? Let me know down below. Next, we're going to talk about potentially another underrated playmaker on this Celtics roster who is finally in the building. We'll tell you who it is in just a moment. But first, get hooked up with these awesome hoodies. It's almost hoodie season. Leaves are falling from the trees. Get the Celtics hoodie while it's on sale right now. 40% off at chatsports.com/Boston hoodie. Chatsports.com/BOS hoodie. Don't worry, though. You don't have to type it out. I put that link in the comment section and description of today's video. Alrighty, Anfernee Simons. He's here to stay. And can he be another playmaker that is kind of has some untapped potential in that regard this upcoming year? What has Anfernee Simons been asked to do throughout his career so far in this league? Go out there and be an isolation scorer for a bad Portland Trailblazers team and just fill up the box score. Well, he's going to have the opportunity to do that and in a more winning environment this upcoming year with the Boston Celtics. And I think that as far as how he compares to Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown as an offensive player, like, there are some real similarities there. And I think the Celtics fans are kind of not realizing how good of a player they're getting in Anfernee Simons. John Corrales of Boston Sports Journal had these stats to throw at us. He said his isolation scoring compares to Jaylen Brown's. Both ran the exact rate of isolation, and they finished the last season almost even in points per possession in the ISO game. Brown was a more efficient shooter, but Simons turns it over less frequently. Ultimately, they performed very similarly in this role. Simons' pull-up shooting also compares pretty closely to Jaylen Brown's. Simons shot 38.3% on 7.2 pull-up jumpers per game, while Brown shot 37.3% on 6.8. So Simons a little bit more effective there. His driving was more along Jayson Tatum's lines with just one fewer per game. Tatum was a better finisher and passer, but Simons' assist percentage wasn't too far off of Jayson Tatum's at 8.1 to 9.4%, and Simons actually turned it over less than JT. So we're getting a real talented player here. Like, make no mistake, the Celtics are getting a legit offensive talent here in Anfernee Simons. There are absolutely questions about him on the defensive end, but as far as being able to put the ball in the cup at all three levels, Anfernee Simons has it. As far as being able to distribute the basketball and be a playmaker with the ball in his hands, I think Anfernee Simons has it, but it just wasn't asked of him super often up there in Portland. I think that's going to be something that we see on this Celtics roster this season as well. Show some love to Anfernee Simons. They didn't decide to do a media press conference with him. They're saving all those questions for media day, and they're definitely going to be interesting. So I want to welcome him to Boston for as long as he is here. Type some 4s down in the comment section. That's the jersey number he'll be donning, replacing Drew Holidays. And that will do it for today's edition of the Celtics Today by Chat Sports. Hit me up on Twitter at Tyler J. Smith, 2 H's, because the name's common, but I am not. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel as well. YouTube.com/CelticsTV. We'll see you guys in the next one. And as always, let's go C's.